Coach, you have experience in Game 7. What do you think about closeout Reds, and what's your thought on that?
Close out.
Red. Red jerseys. Closeout red jerseys.
Wearing red. Oh, I have no idea. If that gets it done, I'm all for it. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
There's a reason why during the Miami Heat series against the Milwaukee Bucks, Mike Budenholzer's brother died in a car crash. And the reason why they reported it as Mike Budenholzer's brother dying in a car crash in the midst of the Miami Heat series is because of the correlation. Death in the Miami Heat. The team, they wear red jerseys because the red represents death. Now, I know they wore the black jerseys against the Boston Celtics in Game 7, but it still had that red in there, the red lining in there, because the red represents death. Whether they're wearing red jerseys or black jerseys, the emphasis on the team when it comes to the colorway, it represents death, black, white, and red, as well as, that sun element with the yellow or the gold, you know. It represents the understanding of death. And then you have Skull and Bones. Like I said in my last video with the Denver Nuggets logo, somebody said I was reaching. And, the reason why I make videos like this is because of how everything lines up perfectly. Like, this is the first year that the Denver Nuggets go to the championship. And this is the year that represents Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones, 322, 322 years since the inception of Yale, going back to 1701. You look at the logo for the Denver Nuggets, it's similar to the Skull and Bones logo for a reason, because this was the year that they would make it to the NBA Finals, in the same year of Skull and Bones, the year of death, going against the Miami Heat, the Heat representing death. So everything all lines up. And I know I made other videos, going into scenarios in regards to how it matches up esoterically, because, when you dwelling in this life, or when you dwelling in this world where you have a spiritual eye, I ain't gonna lie, sometimes you get a little carried away, but it's all within good reason, because, you're just maintaining it. And it's all about just the maintenance of it, just when it comes to the spiritual eye. But you always want to make sure that, you're utilizing discernment with it. So in the case of myself, sometimes I make videos where people may think that it's a little too reachy, but it's only because of just this maintenance of the spiritual eye that I have when it comes to the Heavenly Father blessing me with this understanding. And also, like, I'm not one of these tinfoil you dudes. I do put things in proper perspective. You feel what I'm saying? It's just that, like, it's just crazy how things just line up so coincidentally, so perfectly. This is 2023, the year of 322, as above, so below. 322 years since the inception of Yale University, where Skull and Bones derives from, the Denver Nuggets. Now, you look at the logo, it's similar to this logo. And there's a reason why they made it to the finals this year. Not saying that it has everything to do with Skull and Bones, but that's a part of it. We have to understand we live in a scripted world. We live in a scripted world, and it's not unadulteratedly scripted, but it's scripted nonetheless, just in terms of how things match up esoterically. You know what I mean? It's a reason why the Nuggets made it to the NBA Finals, not just because of their play, because they are a great team, but it's also other factors that aided them. Just like in the previous years where certain teams made it to the finals. You know what I mean? So that's just what it is. And we see Miami going against Denver in the NBA Finals this year. I'm still taking Miami, but I definitely could be wrong about that one, because Denver is just a different beast than Boston. Boston may have the better talent, but Denver is more consistent. Denver is more consistent. So it's going to be a whole different beast. You had Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra being so affirmative and definitive about how they're going to win Game 7. And I know that on its face, it could be confidence, but I feel like it's more about the predictive programming aspect. And in recent years, you've had a lot of the predictive programming aspect coming from players, just when it comes to, the finals, or, what they would do next year if they would lose, like following a loss, reminding me of like Steph Curry. And in this, you have the further proof in regards to Jimmy Butler giving Coco Gauff some tickets for the NBA Finals, even before, they made it to the playoffs. They could have lost in the playing game. So that's how you know that it was already meant for the Miami Heat to make the finals, just based off of what 2023 represents, the color red, Miami being an allusion to death, just when it comes to the color schemes, as well as the understanding of that franchise esoterically, and Jimmy Butler being an asset. And he shows you, you have a lot of the orange, a lot of this enlightenment aspect, this, aspect where the esoteric energy comes to the fore. It's just that certain people have to pick up on it when it comes to these connections to the predictive programming aspect. The predictive programming aspect is based in esotericism and, the understanding of MK Ultra, these players being put on the MK Ultra. Coco Gauff says Miami Heat star Jimmy Butler offered her tickets to the NBA Finals before beginning of the playoffs. Jimmy Butler's talents have been lauded this postseason, from his toughness to his elite shot making. There is a reason he has earned the nickname Hemi Buckets. But one talent we didn't know the Miami star had was clairvoyance. Yes, clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is something that goes into the esoteric understanding. Just when it comes to these people who partake in witchcraft, and they understand these elements in regards to the predictive aspect. But according to tennis star and Heat fan Coco Gauff, Butler's either excellent at predicting the future or just extremely confident. Predictive programming, that's all it is. In the lead up to the French Open, Gauff hinted she had a funny story about Butler but was going to save it to avoid jinxing it. However, after a victory in the first round at Roland Garros on Tuesday, and more importantly, the Heat's dominant Game 7 win over the Boston Celtics to book their ticket to the NBA Finals against the Denver Nuggets, Gauff said she was finally ready to tell a story. And it's funny because we already understand around these times during the playoffs, you have these situations that manifest where you can see the nefarious aspect. Just when it comes to like the magnets, certain pundits who hint at it, but they got to play coy and act like, they ain't really saying too much, or they're not being too revealing with what they say, but they give you a hint. Like you have certain pundits who say stuff like, well, it's not scripted. That's really genuine. It's like, what do you have to say that for? Just like when I was watching the show Get Up, they was talking about how Pat Riley and the Miami Heat, they packed for the Denver Nuggets. And they were saying, well, that's genuine. That's not scripted. Like, why do you even have to make that disclaimer? That's how you know that this is all bullshit. Just when it comes to the predictive aspect. And when I say bullshit, I'm just talking about the predictive aspect. I'm not talking about the game being fake or nothing like that. In certain aspects of the game, you could tell there's just some bullshit in it, but it's not like play by play. Let's just follow a script. It's just more about the esoteric factor, the witchcraft factor, the predictive programming factor, certain assets, the magnets in the rim, so on and so forth. All these things play a part. Gauff, who says she didn't watch Game 7 as it was on in the middle of the night before a first round match, but was very relieved to see the result, explained that before the playoffs, Butler reached out to her to offer her tickets for the final home game of the season in April before contacting her a few weeks after offering her tickets for the postseason. I said I won't be here. I'll be in Madrid and then Rome and then France, Gauff told reporters. And then he said, okay, when we make the finals, let me know if your family wants some tickets. So this was before the Heat were in the playoffs. This is before we lost to the Hawks for the first playing game. Everybody's like, we have a 3% chance of making the finals. 3%. The number 3 is prominent this year. But when he sent me that, I knew we were making the finals because he didn't say if we make the finals. He said when we make the finals. Now that we are in the finals, I can say that story because it's predictive programming. That's all it is. But I remember screenshooting it and sending it to my family, and I was like, oh, we're going to the finals. Butler's confidence stuck with the 19-year-old, as she said. I just really like that mentality of him. Yeah, another asset, Coco Gauff. So all of this is just based in the understanding of the predictive element esoterically, as well as MK Ultra. Coco is an allusion to the butterfly, the cocoon. That's what it's an allusion to.